And please allow me to introduce now our next speaker, Kirsten DeMelo, who was born and raised in the United States. Professionally, she is a registered nurse specialized in critical care. She is a second-generation Spiritist, an active board member of the Spiritist Society of Philadelphia. She has been actively studying Spiritism since childhood. She coordinates meetings twice a week and gives talks on various Spiritist subjects. Kirsten will be talking about inner balance and mental pollution. Please help me welcome Kirsten to the stage.
Thank you all. I really wanted to thank the organizers of today's event. It's such a blessing to be up here, to be amongst friends, both incarnate and disincarnate. And as the presenter before me and the ones earlier this morning really have set the foundation for the things I'm going to be discussing today. And as was just mentioned, I am a registered nurse. I specialize in critical care. So I have many patients that I see day in, day out, and unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of them are knocking on death's door. So usually I'm the one who's either helping them cross that door or trying to hold them back towards the other side of the door. So allow me to share a very brief case with you that will really help illustrate what I'm going to be discussing today, which is inner balance and mental pollution, and the story of this patient I had and his issues with his inner balance and his excessive mental pollution. I received this man post-operatively. He had extensive surgery done on his stomach and his intestines. He came in through our ER because his intestines basically had exploded and all the contents were spilling out. What had happened, they found out, is that he had massive cancer throughout his entire stomach region, unbeknownst to him for probably years. He came to me after the massive surgery, which we thought he honestly would not make it. And the interesting thing is that after he woke up out of his coma, and of course we're managing his pain, one of the interesting things he shared with me as his nurse is that he reflected on his illness. And for him, he said to me, you know, it's quite clear now. I feel that I've been given a second chance at life. I feel that this cancer, although it almost killed me, really woke me up. And so I continued to listen to him, and he said, you know, even more so, I think that I caused my cancer. So of course I'm thinking, oh, this is really interesting. Let me ask him why. So I'm like, really, why? And he says, you know, I think my entire life, I just kept holding in my anger towards my father, towards my mother, and now towards my wife, perhaps towards my children, and all these sort of mental pollutions, negative thoughts that I've been having over my life have just really, he believed, have caused this cancer because I held on to it. So this case I want you guys to remember as I go throughout my talk today to help illustrate how our mental pollution could reach such a level where it manifests in our physical body. So we ask ourselves, how does this mechanism work, this mechanism of our thought process? Our mechanism of thought, more importantly. So I'm going to go in and describe this to you as soon as the slide turns, and describe to you how us as the immortal spirit, we have a continuous level of thoughts always, right? Whether it's unconscious or conscious. And some of us have positive thoughts that go in sometimes in a loop. And these positive thoughts can be habitual in as much as the negative thoughts, just like my patient had habitual negative thoughts over the years, same patterns over and over again. Much like air and sound reverberating through the air, air being the vehicle for which the sound can go, the universal cosmic fluid acts as this vehicle for our thoughts. And with our strong willpower, our will and these thoughts can be condensed into this thought. And this condensation thereby also causes the saturation of our paraspiritual molecules and then the materialization of the thoughts. Let me give you an example of this. How many of us have ever thought or had this happen to you where you're constantly thinking about something and then it happens? For instance, let me give you an example. In nursing school, for about 2 years, I did an internship in a critical care area, already knowing that the ICU coming out of school, no new nurse ever goes into the ICU. It's just a no-no. So when I went to my interview for my job, my future boss, now boss, said to me, look, I'm gonna hire you in a different area, but maybe later on, a couple years, you gain experience, and then maybe you go to the ICU. And I said to her that day, no, you're gonna hire me for this position because that's what I want. So for 2 years, I've already been planting that seed in my life, saying to anybody and everybody who would listen, I'm gonna get an ICU position, whether it's this hospital or another one. So that day I had that interview, and my boss was saying to me, no, you're not gonna get this job, you're not gonna get that position, I'm gonna give you another one. But I said to her, you're gonna give me the job. So she laughed and I laughed, and that was the end of it. About a month later, once I did eventually graduate from nursing school, I started my first day. And of course, orientation, they go and give you your little badge. And my badge said, Kirsten DeMelo, RN, ICU. And I'm thinking, and I'm looking at the ladies giving my tag, and I go, listen, lady, you make a mistake. This isn't, I'm not going to the ICU. And she said, no, I don't make a mistake. This comes from the higher up. So she sends me upstairs, and I meet my boss, and she says, after the interview, I thought about it, and I was kind of impressed by your determination. I decided to hire you, and we'll see how it goes. You have 12 weeks. We'll orient you, and you'll go through a course. So this right there is a mechanism of our thoughts. When you want something enough, you can materialize it in your life, whether good or bad, because we know the law of the mental field. As André Luiz talks about it in the book, Mechanisms of Mediumship, he talks about the law of the mental field, and that me, as an incarnate spirit, constantly sending out all these thoughts, always vibrating these different energies. And so I can connect with another spirit, whether incarnate or discarnate, with these similar thoughts. Like, for instance, perhaps I like the color pink. So I'm always thinking, I like the color pink, I like the color pink. So here comes a little friend of mine saying, you know what, I like the color pink too. And we connect. Except usually it's not the color pink that we're connecting from. It's either something more negative or something perhaps more on a positive level. But these are the ways that we connect through our thoughts with someone. And these arrows are just to illustrate a sort of vibrations that we emit, and connecting also with one another. And André Luiz in this book talks and says, in it lies the energetic home of the spirit. Through it, each creature will assimilate only the influences that it attracts to. So like the old phrase, birds of a feather flock together, or another more popular one, tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are. Because we all kind of come together, like people in this room. We're all together, why? Because we all want to better ourselves. We all want to know how to get to the quote-unquote promised land, or perhaps just a happier earth, a happier society. So we should keep this in mind about the mental field day to day of the things as we're talking, because like this picture shows, we're always sending out this energy, always. And oftentimes, it's unconscious thoughts that we're having because it's habitual. And this is part of the mental pollution that I want us to understand here tonight that happens, these negative habitual thinking patterns that unfortunately for many lives we have. And Emmanuel, in the book, In the Domains of Mediumship, talks about this. And he says that the body is an electronic whirlwind of the conscience. The body, an electronic whirlwind guided by our conscience. Why? Because I, the immortal spirit, impregnates in my physical body, just like my patient, all those years of mental pollution, not being balanced. He unfortunately reached that point where it was affecting his physical body. But I'm also here to share with you that it doesn't have to get to that point. We don't have to get to the point where we have to go for massive surgery or winding up in the ICU and our family members are crying. For sure, we don't have to get to that point. I remember Chico Xavier talking something to the effect of, it's kind of like having a house that's really dirty. You can do one of two things. You can clean a house once it gets really dirty, and it takes a long time, it's very tedious, and there are all the little nooks and crannies you have to get to. Or you can clean it from day to day, and then the cleaning's not so bad. It becomes more of a gradual thing that happens to us, because our physical body will reverberate, will reflect all of our thoughts, will reflect all of the mental field that we're living in. Today we know modern science talks about the brain and our emotions. But we know in Spiritism, but our physical body and our brain is merely the output for these things. But one really interesting thing that I found, especially with modern medicine, the American Academy of Family Physicians, and I found this fascinating because sometimes in my field, and I think people as well might think that modern medicine's not so much into this esoteric feelings, you know, those are for gurus and for other psychologists, but there's nothing to do with medicine. But when in fact that's not true. I mean, modern medicine has really come a long way, as some of my colleagues before me have talked about. And the American Academy of Family Physicians is really interesting because they are saying to the population of people now that if you do not have a congruency, which means all balance of your feelings, your thoughts, and your behaviors, you probably will not have a balanced emotional health. And it's vital and necessary for us to have and be aware of our feelings, thoughts, and our behaviors. Because Freud was the one who said that most of what we are remains or lies in the unconscious, or as Joanna de Angelis calls it, the archives of our soul. So it's about getting to know who we are. And also the physicians say that once we've attained this balance of being aware of our feelings, our thoughts, and our behaviors, we're able to obtain good self-esteem, healthy relationships, and good coping mechanisms for stress and problems. And Joanna de Angelis also talks extensively about this, about inner balance and mental pollution in this book, Existential Conflicts. And she says that the human being is entirely a stream of emotions which need to be well managed. So again, I go back to my patient and the analogy of the house. Perhaps if he had spent more time every day cleaning himself up instead of waiting for the ultimate painful thing to happen, which is literally an explosion of this cancer that just overtook his body. His body no longer could endure all the stress that he had caused it, because the cells of our body are merely listening to the thoughts and the commands that we give to it. It's just being obedient. Whatever you tell your cells, these angry things, it's going to be obedient to it. So Joanna de Angelis says that we are emotions. We're multidimensional emotions, and we need to take care of ourselves. We really need to, or else we know negative things can happen. So she gives us some solutions and suggestions. She says, introspection, meditation, cultivation of superior ideas, and prayer constitute advanced therapies. She goes on to say, their positive vibrational effects on behalf of those who maintain them, meaning us, me, the incarnate or disincarnate spirit, producing health through the recomposition of the psychophysical equilibrium. What does that mean? It sounds like a lot of jargon. It's very simple. I mean, we think that, oh, I can't go home, I can't meditate, I'm just, you know, I'm not that person. I'd rather just go, you know, run to the gym or do something. And that's great too. Whatever it is that makes you just be quiet, go into yourself. Go into yourself, even if it's just for a few minutes every day, at the end of your day. Because we are creatures of habits. You got to create a new habit. In our past lives, we've created negative ones. And as Chico Xavier says, we can never go back to redo our past. We can only recreate our future, right? I'm paraphrasing there. But that's what it is. We have to recreate ourselves in this new earth, this new world of regeneration, because that's what it's about. We need to regenerate our batteries. We need to regenerate the thoughts and ideas that we had that no longer are going to work in this new world moving forward, and no longer work with us. These spirits that are coming now to incarnate in this earth, the spirits that are our children today, are those that are before us who are tired of the suffering and who want to. So I urge you, my friends, to create new positive habits, because these will ultimately affect your vibrational field, not only for yourself, but for your brother or sister who are around you. Baby steps, truly, baby steps. Take it day by day and create new positive patterns for yourself entering this new earth. I thank you so much for all of your attention, and God bless us all.